So women who are killing it in their field are replaced for being too expensive. And my friend Susan Paulson experienced this after being moved from like an unnamed mega shoe chain store to the East Coast from LA as the senior regional director. She had two kids in tow at the time. She had a husband and this job. And then all of a sudden, boom. And so we're going to talk today about how the community rallied around her when that job ended, when that marriage ended, and how she pulled herself up by her bootstraps and now is the regional manager of 180 and growing Starbucks licensed stores. So good to have you, Susan.
Good to see you.
So, give some advice to people that are being laid off or rejected. How did you not take that personally?
It wasn't the first time you feel like there's a fork in the road and you have to make a tough choice. There was another large chain I worked for at one point, and the job was eliminated. And at first you take it personally and you think, how could that happen to me? I gave so many years, such hard work, won awards, the whole 9 yards. And then you realize at the end of the day, when one door closes, another one opens. And I think
Mm.
life is a journey, and I believe everything happens for a reason. So you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you realize the strategy or the direction of the company maybe isn't one for me anyway. And you, you know, focus on yourself for a minute, figure out what do you want to do next, and you network like crazy, and you find the right next thing, or sometimes I think it finds you.
Right. And you're from the East Coast, so it's not like I mean
Yeah,
every move is big, right? So like now you're in New Jersey, you're gainfully unemployed, you've got the two kids, you've got the big house, right? The marriage
I
ends
did.
and you decide to downsize.
I
So
did.
how did you stay out of the emotion of that?
You know,
Did you have one messy cry? Tell me you had
I
one messy cry.
Okay, true story. I was looking at houses, and I went to a house one day, and I went with two friends, and it was horrible. I was leaving a $1 million brand new construction 5 bedroom home, my dream home, and I had come to terms emotionally with the fact that I needed to downsize because I didn't need all that space, the bills. I didn't need it, and I went to look at one house, and I came home, and I was quasi catatonic, and I looked back at the camera, the Nest camera in the kitchen, and I looked at the video footage of myself, and I literally stood in the kitchen waiting for water for my tea in the refrigerator to boil. And you know how it then the door. And I stood there and I looked at the footage in hindsight, and I was like, whoa. And I just stood there, gobsmacked, dumbfounded, just totally distraught. Like, is this what my life has come to? And there were definitely moments of one time I threw myself on the couch and had an ugly cry. There were definitely moments of woe is me. But at the end of the day, it's like my husband not wanting to be married anymore. Like, I think I'm a catch. I'm adored
Oh
and loved
yeah.
by many. So, that's again, it takes two to tango. If you don't want to work on it, then go. So that's not a reflection of me. If you don't want to work on it and you want to go, like, that's on you, and that's okay. I don't have cancer. Like, I'm, knock on wood, I'm healthy. My kids are healthy. So again, these are high class problems to have. I'm going to sell $1 million house, and I'm going to buy something outright that I won't have a mortgage payment. And that strategy will afford me to take a job I love, not one just for a paycheck. So I
Right.
think, looking at it from a very practical, solution oriented point of view, and being very nimble. And I deal well with change. I've lived in Chicago, LA twice, San Diego, San Francisco. I like to live like I'm on the run. I don't want to have a lot of possessions. I'm kind of a
Nomadic.
minimalist. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
can pack my stuff up and go when I need to. And that's okay with me. Because it's about experiences. It's not about a lot of stuff. And I don't like a lot of clutter. So moving is not a problem. I can do it.
And it can be, it's one of the biggest traumas that, they put up there with death and divorce. And, I also don't mind moving. I find it kind of exciting. And I am very watchful of the crap I start to gather, right? Because the house I'm in now, I'm like, equity building house, there'll be a next. So don't get all those armchairs and all those, I don't need tchotchkes. No, thank you. Right. But you get
Yeah.
pulled into that ideal by, it's not like my kid's fault, but everybody wants a home and they want it cozy, whatever. And all I'm thinking is, what's the next sort of equitable strategic move? But at the same time, make it feel good for my family. Right. So we
Yeah.
tend to have to balance that a lot. The comfort, but also knowing that we might have to go. So when you were brought out and then the job ended, and you were working like Maine to DC, I think you said, like you had
Yeah.
a really big,
Yeah.
and it was the holidays. So when you say you networked your, ass off to get a job, what did that look like? How did you start?
Um, well, one of my partners at work said, get unemployment. And I was like, what do you mean? I've never considered it. And yet, when I went online and I looked at how to get unemployment, which would help, pay for groceries, right? It wasn't a lot of money, but it was some money. And what I did was I leveraged they have tools that you need to use to document who you're talking to. And
Hmm.
actually, it was a really great way to stay organized so I could remember who I'd spoken to, because I was looking at talking to recruiters and doing research and understanding where the jobs, where the growth was in retail. It's home, it's beauty, it's the e-commerce trying to now do brick and mortar, Warby Parker, Casper. So I was doing a lot of research and I was talking to a lot of people. And so I needed to keep track of who and what and when and what was the outcome of that conversation. And I upped my LinkedIn uh, membership to premium, and I paid for it because then I could look and do research. And so I kept myself very organized, very focused, and I have a big network and I have a great memory. And so staying connected to people, I think over the years, and having those relationships and being, I think, a good leader and
Mm.
maintaining relationships that then yield on the back end when you finally need something. So, I mean, I had numerous people from the shoe company call me looking to get out. I was still advising and counseling and trying to coach and support. So I know that those relationships over the years, the payback is tenfold. If you
Right.
invest in other people, they are there for you and they can be that kind of safety net when you need it.
That's amazing. And I find it like fascinating that there's all these like fancy tools that people think they need to go get a job, when probably like what they gave you at unemployment was like a spreadsheet that you
It
just sort of
literally,
filled
Kim,
it,
it
like
literally, literally
basic.
a spreadsheet that I printed over and over and over and just kept filling out. Literally,
Right.
I
A
could have done it in
highlighter.
Excel.
I know. And recently someone was like, a CRM is good, but like, don't get all caught up in all the CRM stuff. Just like print shit and call people. It's like we get caught up in like all this networking jazz. It's like upgrade LinkedIn so people actually get your messages. Like what a
Right.
notion, right? And it's
Yeah.
so worth it. So then and I want the listeners, while they hear this episode, to drop into my social or wherever you're listening to this podcast, whatever platform you're on, how you stay positive looking for a job and what were some of the tools you used when you were replaced. It'd be great if we could start a conversation about this, because right now
Yes,
people are really needing
it's
some
hard.
advice.
It is really hard and it's lonely. I found two colleagues that I had worked with. One was really like a BFF, and he was in Manhattan and he was also looking. And then I had one of my previous colleagues from one of the companies in California who was on the East Coast now, and she was looking at the same time. And it was amazing in terms of a support group, because
Mm.
there I had two people that I respected and really valued, and we were looking in similar yet different fields, if you will. So
Yeah.
to be able to speak to, hey, did you see this job? We would flip each other jobs that felt like they were what we were looking for. One was looking for more high-end luxury, and that's not necessarily something I was looking for. But if I saw something or I knew someone, I was very quick to flip that to him so that he could have eyes on it and make sure he put his name in it. And then we would meet and we would do our recognizance. So if I was interviewing with a major brand, I might want to go see some of their locations. So we did some holiday shopping in a
That's
huge mall here in New Jersey, and we were able to check out several companies that we were looking at in terms of interviewing and preparing for interviews to understand, what was happening in the store, et cetera. So So honestly, the first and foremost is to have a network of people that you can call when you feel down. If you get rejected, there were a lot of companies between the three of us where people just, they say ghost you. They don't follow up. You may have interviews, you may never hear anything again, which to me seems like a poor business
That's kind of
practice.
bad company ethics, I
Well,
think.
because at the end of the day, we're all customers. So I'm always very cognizant of that experience for anybody I interview. I want it to be good, because even if we don't select them as a candidate we're going to move forward with, you obviously want them to have a good experience, because they're customers ultimately. You don't want to leave a bad taste in their mouth, because they have friends, they have families, they sit around and drink and talk about what happens. And so anyway, I was very conscientious of it, but having that network, when I felt bad, I could call and say, oh my God, am I ever going to find a job I love? So having that support system was, there are no words. It was huge.
Yeah.
It was a deal breaker, especially when you're dealing with kids who are at that point in school, and then you're at home and you're used to being a go-getter, and now you're like,
make it.
What am I going to do?
You're like,
what am I going to do now? I went for a lady walk. I went exercise with my friends, and now what? And my friends don't have to work, so that's fun for a while. But I'm strategic. I like to keep busy. I like to make a difference. So for me, not working, they were like, we're really enjoying having you not work. And I'm like, well, I don't really enjoy this, but we'll take it. And because then I went into the holidays, and nobody hires during the holidays. Then I come out of the holidays and it's the pandemic. So I was in the final stages of interviewing, and then the pandemic struck, and everybody pumped the brakes on, extending job offers, because they didn't know what the future was going to hold financially for their company, what was viable. And so anyway, it was, I think I have a positive attitude anyway. I believe things happen for a reason. And, when I thought about what companies culturally would I want to work for, if this is my last kind of chapter, where I would like to make a difference and maybe retire from here one day, where's a company where I believe in the foundation and the culture of the company? And I interviewed with a lot, and I considered a lot. I didn't get a couple, and I feel like I dodged a bullet. So then I called one of my old district managers, and I said, you're at Starbucks. Do you like it? And she was like, oh my God, you will love it. And I was like, really? Tell me more. So she told me. I applied for a job, a DM job, because I didn't care. I didn't care about the title. I didn't need to be a regional director. I needed to be happy and feel like I could make a difference. That was what was important for me. And financially, I'd set myself up to take a pay cut if I needed to, because it was more important for me to be happy and contribute in a meaningful way and make a difference, versus money, because money doesn't buy you happiness.
No, it doesn't.
So I interviewed, and then I saw a regional director job the next day. And so I called the interviewer back, and I said, well, I spoke to Sandra, my old DM, and she loves the company, says it's an amazing culture and company. So I'd love to apply for this job I just saw. What do you think? And then he connected me with that recruiter, and she said, I hired Sandra. And I was like, oh, well, she loves it. She's like, what's your Susan? And I said, yes, I was her regional director. And she said, you're Susan. And I said, I am Susan. And she said, you're the unicorn. And I said, I'm the unicorn. And then it was a series of interviews, and it happened very quickly. And
once it all connects, but you've got to do all that, like you said, going to the mall, meeting with your friends, making the lists, reprinting the lists, things are still old school relationships. It's still connecting the dots. And it's like taking the time to really think, like, who do I know? And this comes up with authors that I work with who are ready to go out and find a publisher and an agent. And I might have a short list to suggest them, but I say to them, I go, you're in your 50s. You've met a lot of people. You were in a sorority. Go to every sorority sister who you think wrote a book, and ask for an introduction to their agent. That is going to be the fastest track you have.
I love that you were in a sorority. That's how I ended up.
I
live near one of my BFFs here is my sorority sister, which is why we landed where we did. She was a rock through my divorce with my kids, because she's got 2 older kids. When we were in between selling the house and moving out, and closing on the new house. There were 10 days of squishy, and we stayed with her.
That's amazing. And that's the thing, is go to where you've already established these networks, and we have a lot more of them. So tell me a little bit, you went into the community and asked for help when you were getting back going on your feet with Starbucks, and realized you had the two kids and you had the ex-husband and you had to do this like single parenting thing. Uh what was that like? Did you ask for help, or was it more offered to you?
I am the kind of person who would primarily rather chew my arm off than ask for help. I am proud and independent, and I don't really need you, right? But when the job ended, and at the end of the day, I left the company because I didn't believe in the strategy. And so here I am without a job. I didn't think it would take so long to find a job, but between the pandemic and the holidays, I mean, it did. It took a year. But when I was contemplating other companies, it was going to require a move. And I can move like nobody's business. I can pack up and go tomorrow, no issue. But now I have a son and a daughter, and my son in particular, who's 11 going on 12, he was playing sports, and he was, for him, he's athletic, but it's not so much about club level. It's about playing with his friends. Like, he would rather play a rec level to be with his friends than go. We tried a club level or travel level sport that he didn't enjoy as much because he didn't know all the children. The long and short of it is, the couples that are, comprised of this soccer team in particular, the husbands are construction, they own their own company, landscaper, own their own company, painting, own their own company. And the wives were amazing. And so when I was considering, okay, there's a job in Boston, there's a job they're interested in me for Chicago, there's one in San Francisco, I can go, I can go, it's not a problem. But they were like, we're not going to let you leave. We're going to lay down over the roads. You're not leaving. I was like, well, but I don't really have help I need. And they're like, we're here for you. Whatever you need, we got you. And literally, they have been like that. Like right now, my kids are at camp, but my son, because he's going into the 6th grade, has the ability and the authority, based on my saying yes, to go and ride his bike and check himself out of camp and go to the pool with his little friends. And to me, it makes me sick to my stomach that he's going to get hit by a car or something's going to happen. And I'm like, what if I'm over in Long Island and it's 2 hours away from New Jersey to Long Island, and I can't, or I'm in New York City and I can't get home and he breaks his arm or something happens. All the women are like, we got him. Don't worry about that. We got your kid. Don't worry about that. He's got the mom's numbers programmed. He's got his little friends. They all have their iPhones. So there's a whole network here. When I start to have to travel and do any overnight trips, they're like, we got you, don't worry about it. So it's definitely been, they're definitely, at a moment's notice, I can call. Like I had a nanny for a while and she left abruptly, wanted to homesick and wanted to go back home. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was panicked. And one of his friends, the mom doesn't work. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, he goes home with Dylan. And she takes both the boys and they do whatever. And she has them until I get home from work.
So there's definitely like a way to do it, like for women that are on their own, you need community, You
do.
So we talk about writing on this podcast, and I know it's hysterical. You're like, I hate to write. But tell me about how important it is though. Like, you agreed to come on the podcast. So obviously you see importance in women telling their story.
I do.
And like, where do you think your wins and your hard knocks can benefit women the most?
I think understanding kind of your purpose in life is important. And I want to preface any of this by saying, it's not that I don't like to write. I don't think I'm very good. I'm a verbal person. I'm a storyteller. I'm a comedian, right? I'm funny.
Right.
I can find the humor in anything because it's kind of a self-preservation mechanism for me to find the humor in things because life is very hard. So for me, I know I've got a couple friends who are really good writers. And even though they've never written anything, when I read whatever it is, a review, a post, they're very good writers. And I just don't believe I have that skill. Now, having said that, back to your question, I think you have to know what is your purpose in life. We went through something at Starbucks, and it was a whole couple days of exercises to get to root cause, which is really like, what is your purpose? What are you here for? So that you can find happiness and fulfillment. And I know that my purpose in life is to, in fact, encourage, support, and inspire others. That is what I'm here to do. So in my job, I find that. And I thought at one point I'd be a child psychologist, because for me, it's just all about helping others. That brings me joy.
That
Not
gets you
necessarily
juiced.
solution oriented, but like moral support, love, guidance, listening, that to me is why I'm here. And I get that. And I think, I also surround myself with women and men, but people who are genuine and authentic. I don't have time for fake. I don't waste time on people who are backbiting or backstabbing. I don't. And quite frankly, there's not enough hours in the day to tolerate disingenuine fake people. I spend my time with people who are worthy, who earn my trust and respect and my love, because I love hard. I'm a fun, loving person. Right?
I know.
So
Yeah, so I do. Well, I do think someday you might have a book in you. The reason why I say that is because there's a lot of people that write books from the upper level, right? So like the Sheryl Sandbergs or like the people like that. And it's a little bit unattainable for someone like myself or you. We're not like the upper echelon, but we work it, we do well. Just to read a book from someone who's like, keep on. Like some of the nuggets that you've dropped in this interview are like so good for women who are trying to start again. Marriage didn't work out, got some kids in tow. There's a lot of fun still to be had. There's a lot of life to live. The 50s are just the beginning on a lot of levels, but you're right. Having a forecast of like, okay, I've got maybe 20 years, maybe a little bit less that I'm going to work hard. And maybe where do I want to be? Like with all my infinite wisdom of what I've done, where do I want to be? And yeah. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing. And I really appreciate it. I really do.
Yeah. It was a pleasure to see you as always. I wish we lived closer. We could go out to dinner and have drinks.
We could, or we could do a lady walk, as you call it.
A lady walk. A lady walk is always a good thing.
I'm going to use that term. My friends in California would be like, you want to do freaking what? I'd be like,
I want to go down to Venice Beach and do a lady walk.
Manhattan Beach.
And you should, well, I was going to say, go to the beach and do a bike ride. That's one of the things.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, I take my bike down and I do a bike ride all by myself, sometimes with the kids. It's so much fun. Yeah, it's so much fun. Well, it's been wonderful. Thank you for taking time out of your incredibly busy day, and I completely appreciate you.
Anytime.